Hey everyone, it's Suey here, and I guess it's time for me to review this book. I am not sure I even want to attempt, but since it's such a popular book, I thought I would share my feelings about it, whether you will like them or not. Actually, I'm quite torn with this book. I feel like it was two different books, and I enjoyed one, and I didn't really appreciate the other. So it's really hard to actually review it or say my thoughts about it, but I'm really curious to know if you guys loved or hated this book, or if you were sort of somewhere in between. I feel like I'm in between. Is there an in between with this book, or is it a love-hate book? I don't know. Please give me a comment and let me know where you fall on this whole fourth wing craze. So yes, obviously this was like a huge popular book last year, and then the second one came out also last year. I couldn't believe that they were both published last year when I looked that up, and I was seeing it everywhere. And I knew it was fantasy, and I knew dragons were involved, but that's about all I really knew about it. I got both books for Christmas. Afterwards, I started seeing more things about it that made me a little worried about how I would take it. And yeah. Anyway, for those of you who don't know, this story is about a girl who goes to a school. So in their society, people can choose these like 4 different professions, and she has chosen to be a writer, which means she has to go to the particular part of the school that teaches them how to be writers, which basically means fight and be ruthless and be very aggressive. And what else do they have to learn how to do? Oh, they're learning battle history and things like that. So she's a very delicate person. That's what they keep saying. Fragile. She's fragile. I thought they would address that more and tell us, did she have some sort of condition or something? Or was she just a teeny little petite girl? Like, I couldn't decide if it was just that she was little or that she actually had something wrong with her. But anyway, she was meant to actually go to the scribe school, which is sort of the scholarly quadrant. And then instead, her mom, who is the leader of, like the general, the leader of the armies, her mom told her she needed to be a writer. So they have to pass a whole bunch of tests at first in order to even be part of the school, and most of the kids that go to this school end up dying. Like, I don't remember if they gave us an actual percentage, but not very many of them make it through because it's very tough and it's very violent. She does it, she gets there, and there's of course 2 guys. The guy that's her friend, that's been her friend for all these years, that she really likes. And then there's the guy that's the bad guy, who is sort of the enemy to her family because he's part of the families that rebelled back in the day or something, and all of their parents were killed, and they're all marked to let everybody know that it was their parents that did the rebelling. And we come to find out that he actually made a deal to save all the lives of the kids, and the deal is that they all have to try out to be a dragon rider. And so no matter what their desires or wants are, he's pretty much pledged them all to be dragon riders in exchange for their lives, basically. The bad guy in the sense that their families are kind of on opposite ends of this political issue, but the good guy in the sense that he's pledged his life for these kids. So we learn that as we go along. All this is spoilers, of course. This is not a spoiler-free review because I'm assuming most everyone's read it. So then they are supposed to not like each other, but of course they are extremely attracted. And then a lot of the book is about this intense love affair that they have. Some of the book is about the tests and the stuff that they have to do for the dragons, and the dragons themselves are also characters. So this is the part that I found really cool. The dragon and the writer relationship and the stuff that they had to do to learn how to be the dragon riders, and the bonding that they have with all the other kids in the school, except for the bullies, of course. There's lots of bullies, but there's also lots of cool people too. And so I really liked the story itself. The passionate love affair, not so much. I'm not really against that generally, but the way this was written really took me out of the whole swoony business. In fact, it wasn't swoony at all. My first issue with the writing of this book is that we are in a completely different world. This is not our world. This is a fantasy world. There's a map and everything. We are in a fantasy land, but they still use slang from our world. I just hate that. It drives me crazy. It takes me out of the story. I just put up a writing vlog yesterday, and in my story that I'm writing, it's a different world. It's a space world. And one of the things I want to catch myself and take out is any sort of really obvious slang. I still want them to feel like teenagers when they're talking, but anything that seems real obviously slang, swear words, that's part of our world. That does not make sense in this fantasy world to me. Does anybody else feel this way? Do you get what I'm saying? So this book had more F words in it than I think I've ever read in any book. That's saying a lot. And that's a swear word from our world. Like, make up a new swear word for your fantasy world. It takes me out. It makes me feel like I'm not in a fantasy world suddenly. And then the whole wild sex scenes, fine. That's fine. I'm okay with all that. But what I'm not okay with is the description using slang and terms from our world. I hope that makes sense. It just like ruins the whole moment. Is that enough said about that? Am I making myself clear here? I don't know. On one hand, I enjoyed this story about the dragons, the writing school, the conflict between the families, the reveal at the end, the leaders, everyone, the brother and sister, the family, the mom, all that was really, really intriguing. But Violet herself, being in her head, I did not really like her. Her head bothered me. She was just too, I don't know what. Xaden, I am very intrigued by, and there was that one chapter that they threw in being in his head, which was a little weird, having just one little chapter being in his head. It's because Violet was unconscious at the time, so we couldn't really know what was going on because she had no thoughts at the moment. So I understood why that was happening, but it was so weird. I don't know. Xaden is intriguing. I like him better than I like Violet for sure. So it's one of those books where when you don't really like the main character, do you like the book? You know what I mean? Like, that's always a dilemma. I knew it was going to end on a cliffhanger. Everybody talked about it ending on a cliffhanger, and it did. And so, yes, I'm sure I will go on since I own the book. I'm expecting more of the same. I don't know if Xaden and Violet are together in this book. Whenever people get together in the first book, then you always think that in the second book they're going to come apart and then they have to get back together again, right? Either that or we introduce a whole new person. But I'm not sure about that part. I wish the whole love stuff was more on the Suey side of things, and hopefully you know what I mean by that. In the end, I'm giving it 3 stars, which is sort of the middle line for anything. You know, you like some stuff and you don't like some stuff, but overall the reading experience was fine. I mean, once I got into it, it took me a minute to get into it because there was a lot of world building info dumping at the beginning, which drives me crazy also. Once I got into it, then it was read very quickly and I was wanting to get back to it. And I was very curious about how it was going to go down. Would Violet survive the whole thing? Of course she would. She's the main character. No, I just wanted to see how it all went down. And plus I was kind of invested in those dragons. Dragons are pretty cool. Although another thing is that they talk like a normal person. Like, give them some sort of dragon persona. Make them talk formally or something, or make them talk, I don't know. I don't know what, but they talk just like a person. And I was like, make them seem more dragon-y-ish somehow. Come on, don't be a lazy writer. It's interesting to me to see what books get such buzz, and people are raving about them. And then you read it and you're like, really? This is what you guys were crazy about? That's kind of how I feel about this book. So there you have it, my thoughts. I would love to know what you guys think about this book. If you've read it, and if you haven't read it yet, then you should read it. Let me know what you think. Until next time, happy reading, bye!